your mic on. Everyone else that is either staff or the public will have your mics muted while we go through the agenda until there is a point in which there's either the open forum or tonight we have a continued public hearing on the draft comprehensive plan, and Zach Becker from our office will be managing those microphones, and everyone will get a chance to speak that would like to testify tonight for the hearing. So we'll just take a moment to have Cal, our present chair of the Plan Commission, and Mark, another Plan Commission member, communicate with us as to what your call sign is, so to speak. You're on the video conference. Not everyone is signed up with their full name. So I would suggest then, Mr. Fell, that since we've not been able to connect with Cal and not been able to identify that he is present for this evening's meeting as of yet, if you wouldn't mind leading us into the agenda as the acting chair of the Plan Commission.
Heather, can, before we start, I'm sorry, can we make sure everyone can hear our mics? If I can get, I'm getting messages that some people can't hear you. So I want to make sure we're good on that before we start.
Absolutely.
So if anyone, if just a handful of people can just say yes or no in the chat, that would be great.
Yes, I can.
Okay.
One of the things that Zoom requires is, even though you have a little microphone on the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, you need to engage it and allow for audio to occur through your computer. So it's actually a second step to turn that on.
Right.
Okay, yeah, looks like, let me see what I can do here. All right, we've got a handful of people that it looks like it's good. I will try to manage the ones with messages. So go ahead and continue, sorry.
No, that's okay. So at this point, if Mr. Fell would take over role as the chair of the Plan Commission and begin our agenda for tonight. And we'll need to turn your microphone back on, Sean.
There we go. Thank you. All right, so we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order at, what time is it? 6:04. Go ahead and do roll call. Cal Patel. You must be absent. I'm present. Eva Dixon.
Here.
Art Bubb.
Here.
And Mark Collins.
And Mark and Cal, if you're here, please send a message so I can, and let me know so I can unmute you.
I think I saw Mark in one of the videos, the Galaxy S10 Plus.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Sorry, I've never met Mark before. Here we go. All right, you're unmuted, Mark.
All right, I'm here.
Okay. All right, so I guess we'll have a motion to excuse Cal Patel. Did he tell anybody he wasn't going to be here, or was he supposed to be here?
Cal indicated he would be able to attend, but he may join us later. We're certainly giving grace for those with technology challenges during this day and age.
Okay. So I guess I move to excuse Cal Patel.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, so should we do the Pledge of Allegiance since we're not really at the location, or can we skip that?
That's up to you. The City Council did not do the Pledge of Allegiance on Monday.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and skip that since we're not all together. So we'll go down to let me find the approval of the agenda. We have a motion for that.
I'll move.
And a second.
I will.
Was that Commissioner
Art. Yeah.
Art? Were you the second or the primary?
Well, there were too many voices. I said both. So,
I have Art for making the motion and Mark seconding to accept the
Okay.
agenda.
All right,
that'll work.
that works.
It looks like Cal just joined. So let me find him.
We hold off then until we get him situated.
Cal, can you hear us?
He is currently connecting, so I don't have the option to unmute him yet. I'll let you know. There he is. And hopefully within the next couple seconds here, I'll get an option to unmute him. Okay. All right, you should be good to go.
All right.
There he is.
Hey, it's the first time I'm using this Zoom thing, so sorry.
That's the same for me.
Yeah.
So do we want to turn over to Cal or should I continue?
No, go ahead, continue if you don't mind, if you already started.
Okay, so we're at the approval of the minutes. We did have some minutes from the last meeting. I have them here somewhere. Let me find them. There. Okay, so we have we need to approve the meeting minutes from the meeting on Wednesday, March 11th. Do we have a motion?
I'd like to move the motion for the minutes of the,
March 11th.
hold on 1 second, sorry. I'd like to move the motion for the approval of the minutes of the last meeting.
All right, do anyone have we have a second?
Second that.
All right, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, it's unanimous. Was there any discussion on that? Did anyone have anything to discuss about the minutes from the last meeting?
I don't have anything.
No.
All right, so that brings us to the, oops, back to the agenda here. Back to the public comment section. Are we gonna save that for after the hearing or should we open that up for general comment now?
It's general comment for anyone from the public who wants to speak about anything except for the hearing item later on the agenda. So if somebody wants to identify for Zach that they have a topic that they want to discuss with the Plan Commission other than the hearing item, please use the chat or indicate that you'd like to speak and Zach can unmute you.
Do we have anybody from the public?
Yeah.
Yes. We actually have several other people on the video conference, Cal. So if you use the arrows, you can screen through and see other people. Some have video
Okay.
on and some are just available by phone number.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'm not used to this.
Oh, no, not at all. This is our first time for a video conference. So we do have representatives from City of Spokane, SAJ Alliance. We have representatives from Department of Transportation, the Spokane Regional Transportation Council, as well as Fairchild Airforce Base are some of the individuals that I see that are participating tonight.
We also have Spokane County Fire District 10, Ken Johnson.
All right, well, welcome everybody. It doesn't look like we have any general comments at the moment, so we'll go ahead and close that comment period and move on to the presentation if we have any.
We have no items to present
Okay.
this evening from staff.
All right, so I guess we'll go ahead and open the public hearing then at 6:11.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Planning Commission members. As you may recall, this is a continued public hearing from March 11th on the draft comprehensive plan. That is a document that you've received. It's available on the city website, both from the main page and from the planning department page. We've also left a copy at the library, which unfortunately is not publicly accessible at this time. But we have had that out since March 28th for public review. We have also forwarded any written comments that have been received thus far on that comprehensive plan. There was a package of proposed language changes both on March 11th, as well as some additional documents that were emailed to the Plan Commission a week ago, as well as today. So the purpose of tonight's continued hearing is to hear additional public comment, and we do have members that may want to speak tonight to the Plan Commission, and to potentially close the public comment and have the Plan Commission determine how they'd like to proceed with reviewing the draft. The ultimate goal is to make a recommendation from the Plan Commission to the City Council on the draft document. We also have some updates for the Plan Commission to consider, but before I move into that, does any of the Plan Commission members want me to go back through the PowerPoint presentation from last week or last meeting on the 11th, just to give an overview of what's in a comprehensive plan?
I don't need it.
No? Okay, perfect. So since our last meeting, we have received public comments that we just want to note in the record, which included comments that were in the matrix that was forwarded to the Plan Commission, comments from the Kalispel Tribe of Indians, as well as Spokane Regional Transportation Council, the Washington State Department of Transportation. We also heard at the last meeting a project-specific request for what is been formerly known as Hunter's Crossing, to increase the density and change the land use designations on the map for the properties under their control immediately east of Craig Road. Has everybody had a chance to see that matrix in your packet? Okay, so I'll just have you refer to that as we move into later portions of the public hearing. But from here, I'll hand this back over to the Plan Commission to take additional public testimony and comment.
Okay, so do we have anyone? I guess we don't have a sign up, so I guess we'll just use the chat to indicate if you have any comments about the draft of the comprehensive plan for the City of Airway Heights.
If you can't see the chat, Ken Johnson is saying thanks for all your hard work.
I saw it. Yep.
Oh, okay.
So I guess we don't have anyone wanting to make a comment at this time, other than the thanks from Mr. Johnson.
At this point, then, I would recommend to the Plan Commission to close the verbal testimony public comment portion of the public hearing, and that the Plan Commission move into consideration and deliberation of the documents and the reports that you've seen. And this would be a point in which the Plan Commission can discuss as a commission amongst themselves and ask staff questions with regards to the comments they've received in the draft in preparation for decisions or motions you may want to consider.
All right, so it is 6:16. I'll go ahead and close the verbal portion of the public comment section. And then how we go about doing the discussion with this Zoom.
Well, let's go ahead and let's bring up the matrix, if you would, Zach, and we'll walk through the comments we've received and see if there's any questions, or we can also provide recommendations as staff as to how we'd like to move through those comments. Are we at the top of the page? Okay, thank you. All of you received this spreadsheet. So we did receive several comments from the Kalispel Tribe of Indians. Most of these comments were with regards to clarification of terminology, asking to update the land use map to reflect properties that are under tribal control, which we certainly can do as part of the recommendation. We can also ensure that we've updated titles in the chapter. There was also a recommendation to consider discussion of the tribal influence on our economic development chapter. The Kalispel Tribe, normally, not right now during our stay-at-home order, but provides about 2,000 positions, which impact our local economy. They have also recommended that we include reference to the sewer capacity system that they have been working in with us on as well. Any questions about the Kalispel Tribe's comments? All right. Can we move this down just a little bit? Thank you very much. Zach is actually our DJ. Has a control. He's hosting our event for us. So we did receive comments from the Spokane Transit Authority as well. They provided some clarity and updates as to where they now service. As you may recall, in the transportation chapter, there is some inclusion of information about where we currently have transit stops in our community. That is easily updated in the transportation chapter as well. Let's see, we did receive comments from our chief of the fire department, Chief Metzger, who is suggesting some modified language or updated language with regards to the fire department facility. Some information about its response time, its staffing levels, as well as its capital investments. They are looking to have a standalone station potentially by 2027. And that could be added to the text and modified in the text of the draft plan. We also received comments from the Spokane Regional Transportation Council, and I should note that they are looking to provide us some additional comments, but these are the comments that we've received thus far. That they're looking for concise list of projects in the comprehensive plan from our capital facility chapter and transportation chapter. We have forwarded, since receiving this email, our 2019 transportation improvement plan, which shows what those projects are and the proposed fundings for those. SRTC has also asked for additional detail as it relates to the background analysis on the transportation improvements and its consistency with our Spokane Regional Transportation Council model. And they also have indicated that they're looking for updated information to look at the intensity of use. And so SRTC, which is Spokane Regional Transportation Council, looks at subsect areas when they look at forecasting, and they're looking to do that. Airway Heights, I believe, actually is in more than one CAS, according to them. I also will note that the letter that you received today from Bill White with TO Engineering is the City of Airway Heights consultant for transportation. He is a transportation engineer, and he is proposing to provide a technical memorandum that provides the information that SRTC is looking for. We'll draft that document, provide it to not only SRTC, but Washington State Department of Transportation for their review. And we would propose that that technical memo that goes into more detail about the proposed planning for transportation improvements would be added to our comprehensive plan as a technical appendix. Any questions on the SRTC comments thus far that we've received from that agency, or questions about what they may be looking for or how it impacts our comprehensive plan? Okay, we'll move on. If you could slide that down just a little bit for me, Zach, the spreadsheet. As you recall, we also received testimony at the March 11th hearing from Storhaug Engineering. They were representing one of the property owners, Rick Richards, that is a partial owner in what was formerly known as Hunter's Crossing. They also submitted a letter emphasizing their request to move from low density residential for the property under their control, and identified multiple areas in which they were seeking to increase the density to high density residential, which would correspond with our R3 family zoning, with medium density residential, which corresponds with our R2 duplex zoning. And they also proposed to go down in zoning, which means a lesser intensity, by changing some of that limited commercial property along Craig Road to a high density residential category. And the maps have been included in your packet as well. Any questions about the request from Storhaug Engineering with regards to Hunter's Crossing?
Nope.
Okay. Today, you have also received a response from the City of Airway Heights Public Works Department that was in your packet, indicating that under water capacity, sewer capacity, and transportation capacity, that moving to a higher intensity designation would impact those facilities, and that the background planning for those properties were at the low density residential and the limited commercial. This in part to the water system plan that was prepared in 2018 and was prepared to be finalized in 2019, but was interrupted in being finalized because of the PFAS issue in Airway Heights and our subsequent reliance on the City of Spokane interlocal agreement for water supply. So Kevin Anderson is available here if you have any further questions of Kevin about his letter, his recommendations from Public Works on that proposal.
Kevin, I'm gonna mute you.
Kevin, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were asking the commissioners if they had questions for me. No, I thought what you said was exactly right. We, in the comp plan, we did show that, you know, on the 20-year horizon, we're going to be needing additional water supplies. And our planning has been based on the intensities that were in the comp plan. So we've been taking a look at increasing intensities and increasing water demands will place it will place some additional demand on our water system. So that was our only suggestion when it came to the water, is that we're going to have to address that. One way that we can address that is requiring the developer to be smart with his water, and that would be one of the ways to do that is to install, along with his other infrastructure, some reclaimed water transmission systems so he can use that for non-potable uses.
I have a question. In reading that, does that mean we should not be doing any more development until those things have been met?
Well, we have excess capacity currently, but we don't have sufficient capacity to build out the entire water system within our corporate boundaries. to the densities envisioned. It is,
Right.
it is in our plan to increase capacity. And we have sufficient capacity for the next few years. The issue is we need to develop those capacities to stay up on things.
So that'll have to be developed then.
Yes, and those
Okay,
those projects are included in our capital facility plan.
got it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Any other questions of Kevin about the Storhaug proposal?
I had a question back up on the density part. How does renaming those, I mean, because that doesn't matter. I know they're similar to what we have on our current, our zoning maps, but since we haven't changed that yet, by putting this into the comprehensive plan, is that a conflict of any kind, or how does that work?
The proposal Storhaug has would be to change the density of those properties from a maximum of 5 units per acre up to a maximum of 20 units per acre.
Okay.
And so based on the number of acres, you could do a simple math analysis to determine how much more density. So real quickly, low density residential is up to 5. The medium density is up to 10 units per acre, and our high density category is 10 to 20. So they have a minimum of 10 units and up to 20 units per acre.
Yeah, I kind of remember it from last meeting, but I don't have the map. I apparently don't have that to see which areas they're referring to on that.
Zach, is that possible to bring that map up? And so while Zach is going to bring that map up to refresh the Plan Commission's memory of the proposed changes, I do want to note that
Do you want the Storhaug map or the comp plan map? I'm sorry.
No, the proposed Storhaug land use map.
Okay, give me just a second for that one.
So while Zach's working on that, we do have a representative of the Spokane Regional Transportation Council. Just to go back on the matrix, if you had any questions, that's Ryan Stewart.
Do we plan on increasing the public transit as the density growth goes up?
The public transit is controlled by the Spokane Transit Authority, and that's one of the reasons why in a comprehensive plan review process, we're required to give agencies time to review that plan so that they potentially could incorporate our intent to increase density and to have infill development with their capital construction and their service plan. So the goal is that they would be aware and it would be ahead of the game to provide additional service or additional transit lines. But we as the city don't control transit, but we encourage, as occurred, I believe about 3 or 4 weeks ago, when STA presented their 2021 transit proposal to provide increased service in our area.
Okay.
This is the Hunter Crossings proposal, and so it's color coded. So presently, all of the area that's on the upper side of this map is low density residential or single family. They're proposing to keep a core area as single family, and then over on the west side, they would increase to orange, which would be a 2-family residential, or excuse me, it would remain single family, but it would be cottage cluster, so it would be more dense. They are proposing in the brown to go to 2-family residential. They would be, actually, I'm sorry, they've changed the color since the last time I looked at it. So red is actually duplex along Craig Road, and brown would be townhomes. So those would be attached townhome development at a higher density, which would also, I believe be 2-family residential. And those need to take those two purple rectangles, which are currently would be commercial, to make those into high density residential and propose some other uses, including single family. And then at the very bottom of the map, which is also orange, they are proposing to change that from manufactured housing zoning and low density residential to 2-family residential.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Can we go back to the spreadsheet, Zach, please? Just wanted to, since everybody's on mute, make sure that we have an opportunity to hear any questions the Plan Commission might have. But for the SRTC comments, we do have Ryan Stewart if you wanted to hear comments. We also have WSDOT's on the line as we get to those comments as well. And then we did have a request in the chat, which was that the Fairchild Airforce Base has hired a new community planner, Jamie Kawolski. And Jamie has done a review of the plan and had some questions, but was not able to get their comments out due to base restrictions and quarantine. So I would just suggest maybe we have you consider that as soon as we get done with the rest of the spreadsheet, if you want to have Jamie Kowalski with the base provide some comments and ask some questions.
Okay.
Let's see. So moving on, we do have comments from Washington State Department of Transportation.
Actually, sorry, I have a question from Gregg Figg. Will transportation be addressed at Storhaug?
Zach, can you repeat that? It got a little garbled at the end.
Sure. Gregg Figg is asking, will transportation be addressed for the Storhaug proposal?
In the response from the Public Works Department, their response is that the increase in density proposed would be impacting the transportation facilities for the city of Airway Heights. That it was above the amount of transportation analysis that had occurred. Kevin, do you want to provide any supplemental information for Gregg Figg?
Yeah, hi, Greg. Basically, we looked at it just from the standpoint of how it would impact our existing roadway network. It would have some impact to the network from a transit standpoint. As one of our commissioners just said, I think we would encourage that STA take a look at especially the cottage housing proposal that's going to R3 in the far north end. There may be some additional needs for transit up there. But we pointed out, I guess our comments were based on how how we're transitioning out of an impact fee ordinance and structure that looked at a single improvement at the Craig intersection with Highway 2 and looking towards a more city-based traffic impact fee system that we are working on, and that those developments in this area would then contribute to a different type of traffic impact fee, and that those impact fees would be assessed at the time of the development. Other than that, we've had no, we haven't looked at we haven't done a traffic impact analyses of these higher densities.
Thank you, Kevin. Any other questions from the Plan Commission about Kevin's response on traffic analysis for the Storhaug proposal?
Nope.
Okay.
No.
Charline from WSDOT is asking, what are the impacts to Hayford Road?
And I assume she's talking specifically about the intersection of Hayford and Highway 2? Okay. As I said, we've done no specific, nor have we requested from the proposer specific addressing those specific types of impacts. We do suspect there's going to be some impacts to the Craig Highway 2 intersection for sure. Along 6th, there's going to be some impacts, and there likely would be some impacts to Hayford and Highway 2 as well. We're hoping to capture the cost impact, the cost of those impacts in the revised impact fee that we're currently working on.
Maybe this would assist in the dialogue for the Plan Commission, Kevin, but in summary, is Public Works recommendation to not increase the density of those properties in the former Hunter Crossings development until such time as there is additional infrastructure for water, sewer, and transportation?
For water and sewer, our sense is that the improvements that need to be done have been identified in our capital improvements plan. These will hasten the need for those improvements. I suspect the same will be for the transportation improvements that we have identified in our TIP. Water and the payment for those water and sewer capital improvement projects obviously come from GFCs, and from the transportation improvements would come from a traffic impact fee. So that our sense is we can capture and pay for those improvements in a timely manner. That's our current thinking.
Okay.
But that, if I may, that goes back to my question too. Are we building before we're ready for it? Because we don't have the developments right now.
We currently have reserve capacity in our water system and our sewer system.
Okay.
With our transportation system, as Charline Kay mentions, we are near capacity at one of our intersections, that being the Hayford. In fact, you could say we're over capacity at Hayford and
right.
We are this summer going to be installing improvements that will make significant impacts on that intersection.
Okay.
I don't know if Bill White is on this call, and if so, he might be able to comment specifically on how that dual southbound left will impact the LOS at that intersection.
I don't believe Bill White is on our Zoom public meeting. I believe the bill we have is Bill Grimes from SCJ.
My apologies. I'm sorry. My recollection is that there was a significant impact to the one movement at that intersection that was failing. But I can't recall if it was an LOSE became an LOSD. I thought that was the case.
Okay.
Let's see. So there was an additional comment from Charline, which was, will the comprehensive plan reflect how the transportation improvements will be funded? And the clarification on that, Charline Kay, is that there is a technical memo that Bill White with TO Engineering is going to be preparing that will include the specific projects and funding mechanisms for those projects for DOT to review as part of the review of the comprehensive plan. It is proposed to be included as appendix material into this comprehensive plan. And correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin, on that summary, but I believe that they were going to do the analysis, including the correlation between the capital facilities and the transportation chapter with the planned projects and funding.
That's correct.
We have some additional comments from Gregg Figg again. Our concern is, can the increase in density be supported by the transportation system? And also typically a traffic analysis is conducted at the time.
And we have not required one. And so I guess my question to you, Heather, is should we?
You know, this is a comprehensive plan update, and the property owners have participated in our public participation process and commented that they are seeking an increase in density. There's a couple of options here. One would be that if the Plan Commission wanted to consider this proposal but felt that they needed additional information, they could ask for additional information to be provided for this case, transportation or water or sewer capacity, or the Plan Commission, on the information you provided, could determine that there's sufficient information to make a decision that increase in density should not move forward with the draft of the comprehensive plan. So just for clarity for the Plan Commission, what you're being asked of as a Plan Commission is to review in more detail the overall comprehensive plan, and you're making a recommendation of what to amend in the draft that's before you. And so the goal is to provide information to you to help you review requests that are made and to ascertain whether you agree or you may not agree with the requests that come before you. And to some extent, we could request additional information be provided, but I would indicate here that there's a clear demarcation between this is a comprehensive plan review. This is not a site-specific development proposal, in which normally if someone's applying independently under a private application, the burden would clearly be upon them to provide all analysis to demonstrate that either A, they're not impacting the capacity systems of the city, or B, they would propose with their development either funding or build that infrastructure that would be needed in order to facilitate that proposal. So the thing here is they're asking for a designation, and we may be able to get a little more information, but it's not the same. And I would recommend that would not be the place to ask for a development level specific analysis to ascertain the impacts to a transportation, a water, or a sewer system. Does that provide clarity to the request that's before you versus had they applied under their own private application?
Yes, for me.
So Heather, pretty much whenever somebody wants to make that change, it would come back to the planning commissioner for review. Like, for example, we were talking about the water capacity. Just say the high density goes in place. Who would catch that at the city level to let, I guess, us know that the capacity issues are coming towards the water supply? Even though Kevin has a plan for 2 to 3 years, but is there any way to bring that up before that becomes an issue?
Yes, that's a great question, Cal. So there are measures that we're required to apply to a project when they come in for development, and that's a tool called concurrency. And when Kevin talked about, well, we have the ability to serve for a couple of years, it will be a first come, first serve basis for that development, whether it's commercial or industrial or residential. But each of those projects, when they come in, there's an evaluation as to whether the city has the capacity to meet the needs of that development. And concurrency is a requirement where we have to say we can serve it with our existing system. And if we do not have existing capacity, then we have to do one of three things. One is that the project could provide the funding in order to pay for the portion of the improvement necessary, the project could actually make the improvement in order to have the project be able to go forward, or the project can't go forward until that capacity or service level has been improved. So those three options again are they could pay for it, they could build it, or the city would be forced to say that they can't go forward with the project until such time as the capacity is there. Now that doesn't happen at a plan commission level. That happens on a day-to-day review by the various departments of applications that come in. So those type of reviews come through the Public Works Department. And it is something that is on a day-to-day, but in the comprehensive plan, the goal is to have a project list of improvements we're going to be making for transportation, water, and sewer services that identifies when we need to make those improvements and how we intend to pay for those improvements. So it shows that while development's going along, we have already examined that development and we understand at what point is critical for us to be ensuring that those infrastructure upgrades are occurring and how we're going to pay for it. So in Kevin's example, he talked about impact fees. Impact fees are a funding tool to actually build additional roadway improvements at Hayford Road and Highway 2 that would allow, as our development occurs, to take that capacity of transportation. So while it doesn't directly involve the Plan Commission, other than at this level where you're looking at a plan where we've proposed how we're going to align future capital investment with the build out of the city, their day-to-day part of the checks and balances to make sure development doesn't go through without that necessary water, sewer, and transportation happens every day at the application level at the city departments.
Thank you.
So I have a couple of additional comments from both Gregg and Charline. She's asking to be unmuted to make comments. Is that okay with you guys?
Sure.
Okay. So Charline, I'm going to mute you. Gregg, I will address your comments after Charline. You are unmuted.
Good evening, Planning Commission. This is Charline Kay with Washington State Department of Transportation, the Planning and Strategic Community Partnerships Director. Heather, I'm asking for clarification. You may have covered it in your last statement, but since this is a change in land use density, I'm assuming, or I believe that you do plan to address that land use change, the density and land use changes in the comprehensive plan, along with how the impacts of the transportation network or system will be provided for. Is that the intent that you're speaking of?
If the Plan Commission wanted to proceed with considering moving forward with the land use density changes, then there would be a need to the proponent additional information to ascertain the transportation analysis, or the Plan Commission could determine that it's appropriate to consider this proposed intensity of land use through a separate land use application. And at that time, they would be required to put forth the analysis that would be necessary to demonstrate that there was capacity, or to build the capacity or fund the capacity.
So if included, it would be analyzed. If not included, then it would be independent.
Yes, and I believe that what we have thus far from our Public Works Department is indicating that on a preliminary review of this request, that it impacts the capacity for our systems. And so it would necessitate further analysis and potentially how that would overall impact our systems.
Thank you.
Absolutely. We're going through a lot of, I think, timeline questions here with regards to when things occur in a review versus how they're analyzed. But I just want to note that each year, once a year, the city of Airway Heights can entertain applications for comprehensive plan amendments. We're required to bundle them together and look at them and examine them holistically so we can see the totality of the impacts. The Storhaug Engineering, representing Rick Richards and that ownership, do still have the ability to proceed with a private application for comprehensive plan amendment. They would not be able to have it considered, though, until next year. So they have made a request now, but I think what's bubbling up through this conversation is that additional analysis would be necessary. And I would suggest that, as Kevin has posed the question, that analysis, if the Plan Commission wanted to go forward with that recommendation, should occur, and it would likely need to be done by the proponent of this proposal.
Greg, I'm just going to unmute you. I'm not sure if your questions have been answered so far, so you are now unmuted.
Oh, can you hear me by chance?
Yes, we can, Greg.
Oh, good. Hey, thank you. Good evening, Gregg Figg, Washington State Department of Transportation Development Services Manager. Just to follow up a little bit on what Charline said, one of our concerns is that if the analysis is not done now, if it waits till the application stage, these projects can come in many different pieces. So the comprehensive impact is never addressed. It comes in piecemeal, and the mitigation is never, you can never get effective mitigation when the projects come in as 10 separate smaller little projects. So that's one of the reasons that it's actually required now. And in fact, under the Growth Management Planning Act, it requires that an estimation of impacts to the state highways be addressed at the comprehensive plan level. So that's why we're kind of wanting to see it now, is because if it comes later, it likely would come at the application stage, which never works very well to gauge what the true impact is. And also, I guess, lastly, is can the increase in density be accommodated? Is there a fatal flaw with the increase in traffic? So, and those are the things that we're looking to. And thank you again for the opportunity to speak.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you, Greg. So just for clarity, I think that what is yet to be discussed by the Plan Commission is how they would like to treat this request. So if the Plan Commission is not desirous of moving forward this as a recommendation to include it, then there wouldn't be any additional analysis done, because the base analysis for that property based on its existing density has already occurred. If the Plan Commission were desirous, when we get to the deliberation point, of including a recommendation for increasing the density of the property, I'll just repeat then that it would likely necessitate that the proponent would have to do that analysis and provide that for consideration. And so I think we're in agreement, Greg and Charline, that if they move forward, that they would need to do some additional analysis in this case.
I get, and if I may, I guess that was the underlying intent of my earlier question about, are we out of sync with building first, but not really knowing the end result? And I don't have an answer for that. I think that's what I was asking. And I understand Kevin saying, we have the capacity, but it's still in front of us and potentially a gamble. Am I reading it right?
I would suggest that the clarity is that under the comp plan that's before the Plan Commission, they're currently allowed to only build for low density residential development, and that That is in line already with the capital planning, the transportation planning, and the projects that have been identified to make sure that we don't have lower levels of service, for example, on critical roadways, and that those projects would be also evaluated as each piece comes in to ensure that they're not altering or modifying the proposal beyond what was already evaluated, and they would have to go back through that private application process I mentioned earlier in order to increase the land use designation for those properties. So I don't think that we're in a scenario of building under the current comp plan designation of that property than what we've planned for. If the Plan Commission wants to consider increasing the density of this land use, then there would need to be additional analysis of the totality of the impacts and additional methods of mitigation potentially identified or timing of mitigation identified, so that we would at an end result arrive in which, again, development is concurrent with the improvements that are needed in order to assure that we're not lowering our level of service for transportation network.
Okay, so if I'm hearing it correctly, there is a safety net on one hand to provide in case there's a fatal flaw, as was mentioned a moment ago, in the process. Is that right? So we have a plan.
Well, we do have a state mandated requirement to do that concurrency review on each and every application. At this point, with the proposal that we have, which is either stay with low density or move to higher density, at the low density, there's not a fatal flaw, I think is what you were speaking to, because we would be able to accommodate a certain amount of development citywide until we're triggering a requirement to, for example, build additional capacity in our sewer system.
Okay.
That's what Kevin was indicating, and Kevin, if you'd like to step in here and explain it as well. But we do have capacity with this property being low density residential. But if we consider, or if the Plan Commission wants to consider higher density residential, then that all of that analysis that was done would have to be redone now to ascertain what we would need to do, or the timing of those improvements would have to change, and that has a corresponding impact on things such as the funding plan that goes with that, because we potentially would need to build that infrastructure sooner.
Right. Okay. I got it. That's good.
So if
go ahead.
If we decide to not move forward and leave it low density for the time being, can this issue be readdressed some months down the line? Or are they wanting to move on it now so they can start building higher density housing?
Well, they clearly have moved forward with this request because the timing of the consideration is sooner. It could come back as a private application for comprehensive plan amendment. They could apply now, but we're required to hold off on a decision because we're required to consider all amendments at once a year. So right now we're updating our comprehensive plan and considering the overall plan itself and potentially changes to that at this time.
Thank you.
So let me give just a little bit of background. The reason that the state requires us to only update a plan once a year is so that a local jurisdiction, whether it's the city or the county, understands the totality of the request. This is a really good example where multiple pieces of property have been identified to change density, and we're considering it also with other changes, which I'm going to get to this evening as well, which has to do with the recent city council action, that we're considering all of those impacts at once, so that you're not making a decision and then it kind of becomes, as Greg pointed out, sometimes the concern is what the rolling impact of development is. Are you considering it in its totality?
Right. Okay.
And let me just jump in real quick. The issue with sewer and water is pretty straightforward. Do you have capacity or you don't, or are there elements of your system that don't have capacity? Here, transportation can be a little more complex, and models need to be developed that can be analyzed to determine if this has a fatal flaw. We haven't done a fatal flaw analysis with the improvements that we're planning for the calendar year 2020. And until we do that, I can't say for sure this doesn't cause some fatal flaw in our system. I can only say that the projects that we are focusing on for our revised traffic impact fee are centering on solving problems associated with primarily the Hayford Highway 2 intersection. So my sense is that there would not be a fatal flaw if, as we transition into that new revised impact fee system, but I can't say that for sure until we implement that fee.
Right. Okay.
Well, if I may, I would suggest moving to the remaining comments we received. I do have one action item that the City Council has moved forward with that's pertaining to the comprehensive plan, and then we've also had a request from Mr. Johnson with the Fairchild Airforce Base first, and then with Jamie Kawolski second, have some questions from the Fairchild Airforce Base. So is that acceptable?
I'm okay with that.
Sure. I am.
Yes,
Yep.
I'm fine with that.
Great. And I think this is particularly relevant. Washington State Department of Transportation has asked if the additional crew and personnel that have been included in the mission of the base have been included in the analysis for the conference plan. They've also asked about forecasts for the population for the plan, including allocations to tribal properties. They've also asked about clarification on roadway. In the plan, it was identified as a 2-lane, was actually a 3-lane section. They've asked it for clarity on the projected traffic growth, indicating that 0.5% was low. And they also asked for an analysis showing projects that would be used to maintain levels of service on Highway 2. And we went in more detail with the Plan Commission at the first hearing about what level of service is. It's a system to make sure that we don't have too many delays in those intersections. And then there was also some comments with regards to overall project. So again, Bill White, our engineer from TO Engineering, has proposed to do a technical memo that answers all of these questions for review by Department of Transportation and our Spokane Regional Transportation. Going in detail, listing what our projects were, the funding associated with building those projects, as well as answering these questions about our projections and how we arrived at our capacity analysis. That proposed technical memo would become part of the comprehensive plan, and we would recommend to the Plan Commission that be included as a recommended amendment to the overall draft that you're considering. So any questions from the Plan Commission on DOT's comments thus far?
No.
If we have to do the analysis as I think DOT is asking you, how much time are you looking at? If we have to do it now for future high density?
Kevin, did you get an estimate from Bill White on the timeline for preparing that technical memo for DOT and SRTC?
Sorry, I was waiting for my microphone to be unmuted. Thanks, Zach. I haven't yet, but I suspect that it will just be like a couple of weeks. So if we plan to have another hearing on this, we could have it for you before then.
How important is that analysis at this point? If we push this off another month, how does it impact the comprehensive plan?
Heather, you might be able to speak to the schedule better than me, but I think we could make that work.
Absolutely. One of the things that I was actually going to recommend is that the Plan Commission, since you've closed your public testimony portion, but you're in what's we call deliberation stage, that we answer as many of your questions as we can today, and that we actually recommend to the Plan Commission that you continue this for either 2 weeks and have a special meeting of the Plan Commission, or we could continue this to your next regular Plan Commission meeting. We would be able to come back with the responsive information about these comments, including the transportation technical memo, for your review and consideration for your deliberations. But that would be something that you could discuss at the end of today, after we review the last of the comments that we received, and see if there were any additional questions that you wanted us to follow up on.
I'm okay either way.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and finish the comments, and then I'll bring up one more item that happened on Monday for the Plan Commission to consideration. Then our next steps I would recommend would be discuss how you would like to finalize your discussions about the draft. So we did receive comments from the Parks and Recreation, and I'm sorry, I don't have my readers on, so I'm going to have to look really close at this. I'm at that age. So regarding the, thank you.
I'm laughing because I just put mine on.
Oh my Lord. Let's see. They provided some clarifications about a potential park that was in the plan, and I just wanted to see a recurring area that was identified as a potential park. If the developer is seeking a credit. So this has to do with impact fees and locations of parks, as well as it sounds like, and they have responded to the comment, the Hunter's Crossing, because that was formerly the Landreth property, that they were not in favor of placing duplexes on the west perimeter of that park. So that was a very southern portion of the map that they were proposing to go from manufactured housing to duplex housing. They were not in favor of that. So they're making a specific comment about the Storhaug proposal, or what was called the Hunter's Crossing. And I know I'm throwing a lot of names out there for you. Were there any questions about that before I moved over to one more item for your consideration?
Nope.
I just had one question, I guess, mainly probably for Kevin. He's already talked about it a little bit, but on that recommendation by the I guess that's Parks and Rec Department, they talk about because I know there was a new park that was proposed a little bit further, I think, north in those in the Storhaug plan, and it talks about reclaimed water not being up to that area at the moment. So I'm assuming that's something that would be addressed when we come time to do that we would find that they would do some kind of extension for that reclaimed water to be to that park. Is that my understanding?
That would be correct. A development proposal that wanted to use reclaimed water, at the time of their proposal, they would need to identify how the extension of the reclaimed water system would be able to get to that area and serve it. And Kevin can certainly provide more clarity as well.
Thank you, Zach, for unmuting me again. Yeah, as a condition of, because water's so tight in the city, and we're looking to be as efficient as we can, and we've got a number of needs in this area on the west side of town for reclaimed water, and including the Spokane Tribe and their development would like to use reclaimed water. They're going to look to extend reclaimed water up Craig, and I think it's entirely reasonable to ask this development, in accommodating their increased density, to extend reclaimed water into their system or into their development, so that it can be used for non-potable uses. So I think there's going to be a school up there as well. That would be a great location. So it's something that we're recommending in order to be as efficient with our water resources as possible.
All right.
That's the question.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, so if you don't mind, we're going to pop over to one topic to bring up that has to do with the land use map. And if Zach, you can bring up the presentation on the manufactured homes in the J-list area. And I just want to reassure Jeff Johnson and Jamie Kawolski that we are going to make sure and come back to their questions that they have and comments from Fairchild Airforce Base. So just as a background, there have been some discussions about how to address manufactured or mobile homes over the south side of Highway 2 that are located in the APZ2, as well as some of the sound contour areas. And I was asked to put together some materials about some options to address those properties. And we ended up doing a subcommittee of the City Council, the Community and Economic Development Council, reviewed those options and forwarded a recommendation to the full body of the City Council, which we had this last Monday. Zach, are you bringing up the presentation?
Did we lose him? I don't see him on the list screen.
Lose him because he's in control of the meeting. Oh my goodness. Well, I'll keep going here. So essentially, the proposal is that we would address those mobile homes. So if you may recall, going back in history since about 1995, that there have been restrictions placed on those areas because of Fairchild Airforce Base being at the end of the runway, as well as the impacts of sound to properties located in that area. It included elements such as restrictions on residential development. There has been a longstanding initiative by the City of Airway Heights to assist those people that are living in those areas to move to a more appropriate living situation outside of that Air Force safety area. And it became a critical component in the conversation about ensuring the base capacity and continuing function by removing potential hazards that impacted the base's ability to continue to operate. In consideration of that, there are a number of properties that are located south of Highway 2 on the land use map and the comp plan that still today are designated as low density residential, even though those early plans around Fairchild Airforce Base safety indicated that residential should not be there. It is not the ideal use, and that other uses of a non-residential nature, not a lower density, are appropriate. So the conclusion of a briefing with the council on Monday was we have an opportunity with this comprehensive plan to modify the land use map and to change that from residential to either commercial or industrial property. It does a number of things. First, it actually increases the opportunity for the use of the property and the value of the property, because right now with the land use designation and the zoning as manufactured housing, it is limited to only manufactured housing. Secondly, is it assists a multi-year effort of the Airway Heights in partnership with the state as well as Spokane County to acquire those properties and to assist individuals living in those to better housing options. So if you remember, Highland Village is been participating through community frameworks and through Habitat for Humanity to build housing north of Highway 2 that intentionally would be offered to residents of these mobile homes and mobile home parks south of Highway 2 as alternative housing, and helps with that vision of getting people out of a safety area into safer and healthier housing. So in summary, the proposal is to move forward with action to include a proposed amendment to the land use map in Chapter 3 of this conflict that would redesignate from low density residential to commercial or industrial those properties, and that would include at a later date after the comprehensive plan was adopted to follow up with rezoning of those properties. That doesn't mean that those buildings would have to be removed. They would be non-conforming, so those buildings are able to have repairs. But the goal would be to no longer allow for those units to be replaced, which under our current code, they are able to be replaced. And this is in conflict with our larger objective to try and remove units from that area and at the same time provide housing opportunities for our residents. So over time, if the comprehensive plan amendment was included and zoning included, was that attrition would occur, that units would be removed over time, including at the time in which they may be relocated to Highland Village. And so eventually that property would be able to be developed at a higher, better use. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention and indicate that we'll be moving forward with a recommendation to include that in the draft, to change the map, and to ensure that we have inclusive participation. We have recommended to the City Council that we do individual property owner notification in that area to property owners so that they're aware of this process in the comprehensive plan and they have an opportunity to comment and bring their values and their opinions to the City of Airway Heights before a decision is made about changing the comprehensive plan. Any questions about that or the background or what the impact would be?
Nope.
No.
No.
Okay, so with that, you'll be expecting to see a map, a proposed change map, and we'll be having more discussion about what that should be. But I want to jump back to Fairchild Airforce Base, since this is also so relevant to their mission. They indicated they had some comments and some questions. And so let's start with Jeff Johnson.
Jeff, you're unmuted.
Okay, great. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to comment. A couple of things. Apologize for us not being as timely as we should have been with everything that was going on. We ended up having some folks leave, and then we had just ended up hiring Jamie. So she's read through this word by word. She has a few questions. I just wanted to talk a quick second. My position is I'm the director of the Installation Mission Sustainment Team, and as those that have known me for a while, that used to be the Installation Encroachment Management Team. We decided that encroachment was a bad word, so we decided to change that a little bit, trying to get us to what we're really trying to get to, which is sustaining missions at Fairchild. So one section in your plan under land use, it's on page 3.5, Heather, talks about the Air Force does not require the city to adopt regulations to protect the long-term base operations, but obviously you do have some things in there that say that that you do support the base. I'd like to see if we could get included in there that all the way back in 2009, Airway Heights participated in the development of the JLIS plan and actually had voting members on there. So some words in there that would basically say that addresses JLIS as part of that in the MOU might be worthwhile. And the reason I ask for that is because a couple of the things that are talked about in JLIS that we put in, let's see, the plan was signed in 2009, and then in 2012 we actually implemented the plan in Airway Heights with the MOU that you describe in there already, signed by both the wing commander and the mayor at the time. And as such, go back to the issue of the high density development on the plan that you had up there, the proposal that I forget what the Hunter Crossing. Yes. If you remember when we were working with the Spokane Tribe and the concerns that we had at that time were about aircraft flying overhead right on Craig Road at about 650 to 700 feet. About 50% of our flight operations fly that visual pattern that fly over there. Now, some of the it's kind of a band of flight paths. You've probably all seen that map that was had all the yellow lines on it of where the actual flight paths were. But it goes from Craig Road, basically over top of the casino, Craig Road, and then down towards where the school is in Airway Heights, where the water towers are. So somewhere in there is where our folks are turning. So pretty much all of Airway Heights is unfortunately under that pattern. So what we're trying to work, where we're being concerned about is when we developed the discussions we had and implemented in JLIS in 2012, the discussions at the time were that we're going to leave the density alone. There was some development that could happen in there because it was in what we called the donut hole, which was inside of the 65 decibel levels there. But to be able to allow some development in there to build that area out. But the high density change is a concern of ours. So we're worried about impacts for noise to the individuals that are, the houses that are being built there. We had some problems with the development that went in there, 352 units apartment complex that was supposed to have what we had agreed upon was some noise attenuating construction, and some of that did not make it in there. So as we look at this and talk about another area of high density residential, we're putting a lot more people right underneath the flight path, potentially a danger to them. And obviously airplanes are much better and safer than they used to be. But let's face it, these airplanes that we're flying here today were built back in the Eisenhower days, in the 1960s. So pieces and parts of airplanes come off all the time, and we're worried about if we have a potential crash in that situation, that would be a devastating situation there. So we try to encourage communities to not increase that density that close to the base. And that was what was discussed back in 2012 and agreed upon by the Spokane County, that they were going to work with the City of Airway Heights to try to move the development of residential away from the base and towards the northeast. I don't know what the status of that is, Heather, at this point, but that was just what was discussed. So I'll let Jamie talk about the things that she wants to bring up, but I just wanted to let everybody know that Hunter Crossing, Heather and I talked a little bit about, but going to the higher density and along that whole area and filling a whole area in with high density is a bit of a concern. And that's all the comments I have at this point.
Jamie, I actually don't have a microphone for you. Can you make sure your sound settings are set up so I can unmute your microphone? Also, Heather, there is a comment from Charlene in the chat if you wanted to address that in the meantime.
Okay. Charlene has asked, does the plan include analysis for the rezone? I'm going to guess that's the proposal for the low density residential area in the AP2 that we would consider a commercial or industrial designation for. At this point, there has not been an additional analysis. This just was something that was discussed on Monday, Charlene, to look at, yes, it was a confirmation of the manufactured or industrial. So that we can take a look at that as part of this review. I'm not sure if Zach has the ability. Can you pull up the land use map from the comp plan, or there also a map in the presentation? It's a small area that, and correct me if I'm wrong, any of the plan commission members, but I think it's something like 4 blocks by 4 blocks. Does that sound about right to anybody?
Would current zoning work? I have that up.
Yeah, current zoning will work. Okay. Absolutely. We're going to adapt with video public hearings. And I must say, thank you very much for your patience. Everyone's really engaged, and I think it's wonderful that we're able to have great dialogue and considering a tool that we've not used before. So looking on the map that Zach just brought up, there is a purple area south of Highway 2. That area is inside of a rectangle that's the AP2, and it looks at a 2.5 block by 2.5 block area that would be part of this conversation about designating either as commercial or industrial. As you can see from the current zoning map, this property is banned by both commercial, limited commercial, as well as light industrial and heavy industrial as well. So hopefully that answers Charline Kay's question from WSDOT.
Okay, I have a mic with Jamie. I'm gonna go ahead and unmute her.
Okay.
Jamie, you're unmuted.
So somebody's dog is having fun.
Jamie, we're not hearing you. If you want to just type out your questions in the chat, I can definitely relay those.
Let me just suggest this, both Jamie and to Jeff. The overall comment period for agencies remains open through the end of April. So if you want to submit your comments via email to me at htrautman@cawh.org, we can make sure that they're included in the record. I don't want for Zoom and our ability to work through these microphones to be a barrier for your ability to comment as an agency on the comprehensive plan.
Right.
So Jamie is saying that she needs to do research about the new zoning. And Jeff is saying, sounds great. We will do that. And thank you again.
Okay. All right. So those were, Jamie said she's sorry that we didn't get to chat. Well, so from here, I think that we have presented all of the comments that we've received thus far. I should note that the environmental review on the comprehensive plan was circulated actually at the end of February. We extended the comment period on the environmental review, and a determination of non-significance was issued. The deadline for appeal of that determination will be on the 24th of April. But we did not receive any comments on the circulation of the environmental review, or what's called a SEPA checklist, a state environmental policy checklist on the comprehensive plan. There was another request from Jeff, which is, can he makes one more comment about the APZ2 mobile homes. Is that something that you want to do by microphone? We can turn that on for you now, Jeff, or you can include it in your written comments.
Thank you. Just a quick note. We've been working on this for about 5-6 years, and I appreciate all the help that we've been getting from Airway Heights on this issue of getting the mobile home parks closed and eventually folks moved out of there. Every opportunity that we get for a new mission at the base is evaluated based on a point system. And each time we've gone through for the KC-46, we've lost points because those mobile home parks were there, because they are, and the one main encroachment that is defined for Fairchild Airforce Base. So I just wanted to the commissioners, I just want to let you know that is an ongoing concern of ours. It's obviously going to take some time to get there. I know that there's been a lot of discussion about this through the legislature, as well as Airway Heights and the county. And we've got a good plan, I think, in place, but I think this zoning change we would strongly support. So I appreciate you giving me the opportunity.
How did those points negatively impact you guys with us having that mobile home park there?
We lose points based on when they were looking at a new mission to come to Fairchild and any other base. They're looking at it as how it affects our ability to safely have our aircraft fly down final approach or take off through the APZs. And
so
that's the issue. Is that there's the density is too high in that area. It's not compatible use. So we end up losing points that then we don't compete as well as we would.
So is that costing our local community here anything?
Well, cost is one of the it's not the only thing that cost us, but both the times that we were competing for KC-46 to bring the new tankers here,
Right.
We lost that competition, obviously, to other bases. But one of the things that was downgraded on our application was because of those mobile home parks.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I have an aside question maybe, and if it's out of place, just shut me down. But, looking at the map and living underneath what I call a flight path on 6th or 1st Avenue, I mean, is there anywhere really in our city where the planes don't fly over on their approaches or their takeoffs?
That may be a technical question for you, Jeff.
Yeah, I'm unmuted. The answer to your question is no.
Yeah.
Pretty much, unfortunately, or fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it. If you like the sound of jets, then you're in great shape. We do have flight paths that are real close and pretty much go down Craig Road, and especially on the takeoffs when we're on the northeast runway.
Right.
It comes, you take off, and as soon as they get clear of the runway, they make a left turn and they go right over that area. And on the approaches coming in, the vectors that we get, and I'm a former 135 pilot, we get vectors from Spokane International that puts us, or the FAA over there, that puts us right over top of the center line out by Airway Heights, or excuse me, out by, Walmart, and we fly the straight in approach. So 50% of our operations are straight down final approach, which really don't fly over a whole lot of residential except for way out there. But all the noise that happens for you all that live in Airway Heights is the visual pattern.
Right, but and again, maybe I'm being too finicky, but I mean, I can see the KCs when they fly over me on banking right, they're banking right going south and then turning to go west. I mean, we're right underneath them, and that's a fact of life for me anyhow. It's just the way kind of it is. So I don't know anywhere, even where the school is going to be, on takeoffs. Yeah, you'll be over the schools as well, but it's our reality, I think, isn't it?
It is to an extent. I would say if you take a look at the map that you've got up, you can see where the noise is for 65 to 70 decibels on those
Right.
horns that stick out. That's the location that's historical based on the 1995 ACUS when the B-52s and 135s were here together.
Right.
So that noise contours there that you adopted way back when to make sure that we didn't lose that sound protection, that has garnered us a favorable influence with the Air Force on allowing us to gain more 135s. We'll double the size of the 135s that we had here, which will increase our operation. And eventually those 135s will be replaced down the road with another tanker, whether it's the KC-46 or what the follow-on to that one is. So the answer to your question is pretty much Airway Heights, you're going to be either in the donut hole or be surrounded right underneath where the flight path.
And that wasn't a negative or a complaint at all. It's just, when we talk about the APZs being safety issues, well, we're all underneath that safety concern, I think. So to me, it's a non sequitur.
Yeah, the correct pattern that the guys are supposed to be flying takes them directly over top of the property that where this high density is going to go.
Right.
So I'm not saying that you can't build there. I'm just saying we just need to take some precautions and make sure that whatever construction techniques that are being used are making sure that it's an environment that won't disrupt people's lives too much, because 700 feet above their head is pretty noisy.
I'd love to know the heights where they go over at west first, but that's a side issue.
I'll look it up for you.
Oh, I'm kidding, but that's great. Anyhow, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say that the JLIS protects, as you recall, the current and future missions, and the models that were used in 1995 and in the JLIS are very similar. So that's why the patterns that you have in place back in 95 that you already had in your ordinances are sufficient for JLIS. And that's for a KC 46 or 767 type of aircraft and a B2, a B-52, not because they're going to base B-52s here right now, but because that was a noisy enough airplane that if they decide to put a fighter unit in here, or they decide to put something else that's fairly noisy, that would allow us not to have to worry about the airspace and going out and condemning someplace. So
right, got it. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
So there was just a comment about a possible BRAC. I just want to know how is Fairchild being represented in future BRACs? Is that an actual possibility, or is that just a common worry because it's a military base?
It's a common worry for all bases, but here at Fairchild, it seems to come up every time we talk about new mission, because we were almost BRAC twice. And so when the B-52s went away, they were looking at whether or not Fairchild would be here. But we have had the Chief of Staff of the Air Force, Secretary of the Air Force, as well as the AMC commander, all say that Fairchild's not going anywhere because of the strategic importance of its location. And so I go back to the SAC days, you can understand the strategic importance.
So I want to know, when I'm making a decision about whether or not to increase a density or decrease density, is there actually implementation? Is there actual that's going to negatively affect Fairchild and possibly get that base realigned? Or are we going to, that decision doesn't necessarily affect that realignment?
It becomes a factor. The density of where you're looking at building is more of a concern of the disruption that we're going to cause by flying overhead of people in that area and the noise complaints that'll come from that. And secondarily, the potential for a catastrophic emergency where an airplane crashes. And we've had that happen, as you know, in Airway Heights a couple of times with B-52s years ago. We just had several years ago, we had a F-18 that took off and it was down at Norfolk, Virginia, and it landed in the open area between the apartments in a big high density apartment complex. So they were very, very lucky. So what we're trying to do is underneath of the flight paths, just try to protect as much as we can and not increase too much of a density. Where your building was platted, when we made those discussions and back in 2012, the area on the south part of that development was all platted. The part that's on the north side of that, and even where the school is going to go, was not platted. And the discussion at that time was keep the density where it was, and we should be fine. So obviously you have to make decisions based on what your growth model looks like. We just encourage as much as we can to, if we're going to build something there, build it with appropriate construction techniques that allow the sound to be minimized, and then looking towards the northeast or towards the east for further development.
Any further questions about the comments that we've received thus far? Any comments or questions about the proposal for the comprehensive plan? Okay, so at this point, I would look to the Plan Commission as to how you would like to proceed with the discussion and deliberation of the draft itself and the comments and questions that have been received.
I guess in general, does the city want us, do we want to move on quickly, or do we want to hold this over for another meeting? That's, I mean, I don't know, what you want.
I think that listening to everybody today, high density is a big concern from many people, especially as far as the analysis is concerned. I would say that in rushing and making this approval today would be pretty quickly. I think we should wait till the next meeting and get more information, or even have a discussion about this whole thing, because we've heard from a lot of people already. And I personally don't think that we're ready to move forward with this.
That's fine.
Well, we talked about possibly pushing it to next month, and that would give them time to get back to us on the, what was it, the traffic and impacts. What was that what we were talking about for the Hunters Crossing plan, I think? They said that would be a good enough time, was 1 month.
We would recommend that if you wanted to consider an increase in density, that we would ask the proponent to prepare that analysis, and we would need to see if they're able to provide that kind of analysis by then. But most of that was based on whether or not the Plan Commission wanted to or consider that change to the land use map to increase the density. Staff certainly would support either waiting until your next regular meeting in May, or if you wanted to discuss this a little bit earlier, we could also set up a special meeting date between now and the second week of May for a response. If you give us specifically what you would like to see, we can provide response documents for your consideration and assist in a discussion and deliberation on the documents.
How would we, I'm just asking this, how would we analyze the Air Force concern about high density? I mean, we had a discussion right now, but how would you see that on a document showing those concerns so we can weigh them?
I would suggest getting the written comments from Fairchild Airforce Base. I think you've heard some from Jeff Johnson about their thoughts. I think they're intending to submit more formal written comments about what their concerns are, and that would enable us to be able to respond to how that would be analyzed. I would suggest that if this was going to be discussed at your next regular meeting, to encourage Fairchild Air Force Base to get their written comments in as soon as possible, so that we would have an opportunity to review them and prepare an analysis for you, Cal.
Okay. Well, I don't have a problem with that.
No, me too.
Yeah, I'm gonna second what Cal and Art are saying. I'd like to see some more information. And the other thing that we haven't talked about whatsoever with this high density, the hunters, is what is the impact if we don't create more housing here in Airway Heights? Because I know we're growing, and that's a common trend, is people can't find housing.
Right.
So weighing both of these issues, the Air Force Base and then the housing issue.
Agree.
Agreed.
So I'll just point to a couple of options to consider. One is that with this being low density residential in the housing chapter, it does indicate that we have sufficient land to accommodate our population projection for the 20-year period for number of acres that can be converted to housing without this increase in density. That analysis does, of course, include our urban growth area boundary a little bit further to the north that we potentially could annex because it's already in our UGA boundary. We also have another option if, after discussion at the next meeting, that the Plan Commission is looking for options of how to address the Hunters Crossing proposed land use increase. Bill Grimes, our consultant with SCJ, has indicated that they could also do what we call a sub-area plan. So they could pay for and sponsor their own complete analysis of their proposed land use, including the transportation, impacts to other service areas like police and fire, as well as water, sewer, and identify what their proposal is in concept, and they could recommend it again in a timeline further from this comp plan as an amendment to our comp plan specifically for the development of that property. So it would be called a sub-area plan. It's another tool for them to do the full analysis that may be necessary to consider changing the density of that large of an area.
Okay. Heather, I have another question as well, and maybe it's on the map and I don't know where it is. Can you tell me roughly where is the property the school has purchased?
I don't have control of the mouse, Zach does, but if you're, there you go, Zach. So it's the light blue. So it's the second stair, that's stair step. Go all the way to the corner to the left. There you go. So it's up in that far corner. They've increased the parcel slightly to accommodate the school site, but that's the location. A little bit up, Zach.
Yeah, but I needed to be on the other map so I can see where it was in conjunction with the land use map that we had.
It's presently designated low density residential.
No, on the map that you had up though, which was showing us the APZ and all that, where was it? Where is it?
If you're looking at your computer screen,
there
you go.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Oh, so it backs up to the ORV park.
Actually, the ORV park is further to the right on the screen. There it is.
Right.
It's on Craig.
Right.
The RV area is behind, a little bit to the west of the racetrack, which is the dark brown strange shape
Got it.
on the north side of the map there. So
Perfect. Okay.
north is always up on these maps.
Yep. Nope. That's what I need. I just wanted to see where the school was going to be in reference to the Fairchild flight path. So I got it.
It's a proposed elementary school. The school district has already acquired the property.
Right. No, I understand that. I just didn't know where it was on this map. Thank you.
This is Jeff. They did contact the base in discussions about this, and we talked about the noise attenuation concerns we'd have with them for the classroom. So they were working on that as part of their proposal.
Okay.
All right, so it sounds as if the discussion with the Plan Commission has been moving toward a continued deliberation at your regular meeting in May. I'll get that date up here. And it also sounds as if you want some additional information on the Storhaug proposal for higher density, including evaluating Fairchild Airforce Base's comments. And it looks like from this that was the central issue for follow-up that you were requesting at the next meeting.
Yes, that sounds correct.
It sounds correct. Yep.
Your next regular meeting would be on May 13th. It also, if you want to move forward with consideration of the Storhaug proposal, we can reach out to them and request that they provide supplemental transportation information and coordinate with our transportation engineer. And I'm just going to ask Kevin if there's anything else that we may need if they're able to meet that request and timeline.
I think that is, if I understood your question correctly, asking Storhaug to do that fatal flaw analysis for impacts to the key intersection that we're concerned about, Hayford and Highway 2. That's something that I can reach out to them. That's the primary issue as I see it.
Any other requests of the Plan Commission?
No, this has worked really well, I have to say. I'm very impressed.
Well, I would thank all of you for your patience, and all the kudos goes to Zach.
Well, this is pretty good.
He's still in his probation. Don't blow his head up.
I would have to say poor Zach's had a pretty rough
Yes.
60 days.
I bet.
Been an adventure. It's all good.
Good.
Nice.
So do we have to do anything formally for changing the meeting, or are we good with what we've already done?
I would suggest you just make a motion to continue the deliberations, confirming that your public verbal testimony is closed. You've certainly made exceptions for some additional written comment, and that will be convening for deliberations at your May 13th meeting.
Perfect.
Do we have a motion?
I would so move, yes.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we'll move this meeting we'll continue the deliberations on our next meeting in May.
Thank you very much. Zach, can you bring the agenda back up? And I'm gonna go turn my light on because I think it's getting too dark to.
Same here. Let's see here. No.
All right, so that takes us to action items. I don't see anything on the agenda unless there's something that has come up that wasn't on there. So no action items
No.
and no workshops.
Mm-mm.
Do we have any commissioner reports?
None, no.
All right, so now take us to staff reports.
Just an update, since we are going to have a continued deliberation for the comprehensive plan, that'll be the main topic on the 13th. I did want to update the Plan Commission that discussion of the development agreement for the Kalispel tribal property has been delayed indefinitely due to the ongoing cessation of normal activities due to COVID-19. The Kalispel tribe indicated that they would contact us when they were ready and prepared to resume discussions and bring this back before the Plan Commission for their updated proposal on the R3 zoning. If you recall, the almost 28 acres that's remaining of non-tribal trust land located north of Highway 2 on Garfield Road. We also are proposing likely the following months to start workshopping the industrial sub-area plan with the Plan Commission. We introduced this back in, I believe, February. You all received a copy of the draft, but we will feed that in through the process as we move forward. Those were all the updates that we had for staff.
Excellent.
All right. In that case, I guess, unless we have nothing else, go ahead and adjourn the meeting at 7:57.
Deal.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for your patience. Very much appreciate it. This went great.
I'm impressed.
Heather.
Thank you,
Excellent.
everyone else that
Bye.
attended
Good night.
and spoke.
Thank you.
Everyone.